Now, as you all know, ever since the release of With Love, Meghan, it has been an utter disaster, not just for Netflix executives, but also for the CEO, Greg Peters, and how it created a major divide between many of the board of directors that are handling Netflix, that are handling everything of going on with the programs catered to Netflix, given the fact that they actually are the ones responsible to hand it over Meghan Markle a $100 million contract deal. It just goes to show you the incompetence of Netflix and exactly what they've been doing the past several months. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Meghan Markle is that we already know that she is in pure panic as we speak, because we know that the ratings are not going in her favor for With Love, Meghan, and we already know that they are calling Part 2 a Season 2, because let's be real, Season 2, quote-unquote, is nothing more than just already filmed footage, divided up, of course, all together into 16 episodes. If you really want to put it all together and add it all up, it really totaled out to 16 episodes split into 2, with additional filming on the way for this June. But what's interesting here has a lot more to do with what Netflix recently did against Meghan Markle and how they recently took action against her in the most unexpected way possible when it comes to the whole drama surrounding Meghan Markle herself and the issues that she herself created within Netflix as a studio. Let's get into this, shall we? Now, what's interesting about all of this is that we already know that Meghan Markle is by far one of the most inauthentic, phony, fake individuals out there that is desperately trying to remain in the spotlight, in the limelight, whatever have you. But this is where it really gets intense. Now, with the Meghan Markle Netflix ratings disaster already creating more issues for the executives and CEO Greg Peters, one massive development that is now active involves more to do with Meghan Markle after her series With Love, Meghan failed miserably on Netflix and is doubling down on Season 1 Part 2. Already the board of directors recently made an unexpected agreement with Greg Peters, the Netflix CEO, that is already causing Meghan Markle to strike back and act in a very erratic way. It turns out that Greg Peters made a proposal that was just approved by all board members to cancel an entire behind-the-scenes reel for With Love, Meghan Part 1 and Part 2. It turns out that Netflix was all set and ready to go to make a major announcement where they were going to release a 3-episode miniseries that was going to involve tons of behind-the-scenes footage and the making of With Love, Meghan, and would actually serve as a build-up to what they are actually still calling a Season 2. The plan was to drop this during the month of May, and was going to be announced by this Easter. Both Greg Peters and the board finally all decided to cancel the program altogether, and already Meghan Markle reportedly feels betrayed by the 60% of the board members that have been supporting her over the past several months. Now, to make matters worse, for Meghan Markle's sake, is that the special BTS reel footage for With Love, Meghan, that also included some surprise guests and cameos that never made the cut, is that some of the finished material will also never be included in Part 2 that is still being called Season 2 of With Love, Meghan. Already the Netflix board finally came to an agreement to exclude specific scenes that Meghan believed was her best work for With Love, Meghan that was going to be used for what they are calling as Season 2 still to this day. In fact, it was Meghan's idea, and that she demanded the Netflix executives to call it Season 2 to make the series sound more successful than it is. Already the Netflix board are now having a full-fledged conversation of not calling it Season 2 and just labeling it as With Love, Meghan Part 2. However, that decision has not been finalized as of yet. Now, Meghan Markle is reportedly fuming and already had multiple heated arguments with CEO Greg Peters for convincing the board to lock up the special miniseries that was going to be called, get this, With Love, Meghan Behind the Kitchen. Now, guys, before I move on, let me just say one thing about this mini-series that was supposed to be dropped by this May, called Meghan Markle's, With Love, Meghan Behind the Kitchen. Now, again, we already know that Greg Peters is the very one that really has been pushing the board to make the right decision, to make the right calls for Netflix, to better their image as a studio and what they're trying to put out there. And though I am a major critic of the board of directors, I think that this is at least one step in the right direction to really just diminishing Meghan Markle as much as possible. in 2025. Nobody was asking for a mini-series that was going to be called With Love, Meghan Behind the Kitchen, focusing on recipes, focusing on behind-the-scenes reels and outtakes of both Season 1 and Season 2, quote-unquote, and how this really was going to backfire even more throughout, of course, the spring of 2025 for this actual series. Now again, we already know that Netflix is trying to really take a step back, and they are trying to diminish the backlash as much as possible, and I think that in the long run, it's really not going to do anything. They can cancel anything all they want. The damage is done. People are just through with Netflix. They don't want to hear it anymore. They're just very much tired with the direction of Netflix siding and taking part in all these different personalities that actually cost them lots of money, right? We know that they gave her this $100 million deal. It was something that really was just so unnecessary to the point that it did contribute to the rate hikes. Alright, it wasn't just Meghan Markle though, it also had a lot to do with overspending or actually creating a higher budget than normal for many of their other projects. So moving onwards here, this is where it really gets interesting, is that Behind the Kitchen, is what they're calling it, was immediately cancelled after the board held a sudden emergency meeting about the loss of subscribers according to Netflix data analysts that informed them about the concerning metrics. Already they are beginning to take action against Meghan Markle, and some that were once on her side are beginning to turn their back against her. However, regardless of the cancellation of With Love, Meghan Behind the Kitchen, Season 2 is still a go, unfortunately, since it is reportedly built into a very complex contract that they signed with Meghan Markle, a contract that Greg Peters is desperately trying to get around. And you know what, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, yeah, in reality, it is not a Season 2, it is just Season 1 divided up into 2 parts. That's why the contract is very complex, that's why it's very hard for them to really kind of just get rid of that, because it is really all built together, right? It's all one. And they could call it Season 2 all they want. In reality, that's not what it is. We already talked about this. They shot an overabundance of footage. Not necessarily outtakes, strictly, but they had a lot of other completed scenes that added up to a total of 16 episodes worth of footage, and they just divided it up into 2 parts. That's not necessarily a Season 2. If it was a true Season 2, they would look at the performance of Season 1, they would wait a while, see how it performs in the long run, and then announce Season 2 months down the road. That's typically what happens a lot of times with these major studios. But what's interesting here, yet again, is the fact that Greg Peters finally got something done his way and convinced the board of directors, a overall, across the board, no pun intended, agreement here to cancel With Love, Meghan Behind the Kitchen. Now this is going to be a 3-episode format, 1 hour each per episode, so a 3-hour behind-the-scenes reel. You can only imagine how horrific that would be on Netflix. For Meghan Markle to actually take part in that is just beyond me, but the fact that they were going to have a 3-hour BTS reel of With Love, Meghan, it just goes to show you how crazy and ludicrous the board of directors are still to this day. The fact that they were going to go through with this, they were going to announce this in just a couple of weeks time from now. But I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.